computer.
Okay. All right, more live on Facebook. Okay.
It's so funny.
And then, and then we're gonna share in a group. I'm getting the giggles.
I love this.
Okay, next.
Action.
Dun, dun, dun. Party people. You have your hype girl ready?
I know.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Title. Let's see if I can tag you. Not in that one. Live. And up here I can. Yeah. Okay. Medium and spiritual advisor. You know, it sticks. Okay. There's a little echo. I have you tagged. I think we're good. We're going to go live. Ready, set, go. All right, now I'm not going to look at this. I'm just going to go down and look at our Zoom. And then I might, with the phone, look down at the phone in case people have comments. Oh, you're good at getting comments. How do you do that?
Let me see. I'm not usually on Zoom, so let me see.
Oh, okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot. So I see it here. So we'll see how long I can like note down.
Yay, there's one person watching.
That's me.
That's me.
What? Oh, there's Steph.
Oh my
People
gosh.
call you Steph, Stephanie?
Oh, there.
Okay.
Oh, too much fun.
Welcome.
Okay.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome, Heather. I'm so honored that you're here. I'm so grateful that you've been a guest on our group this week. You've been giving us a lot of love. I think everyone's having a lot of fun. So thank you so much. I always love being, as you would say, in your energy, in that vibe with you. Feels so, that high vibe. Feels really good.
I love it too. It's funny because I said that to somebody today. I said, I just love being in your energy. And then I thought about it. I'm like, how many times do I say that? You know, like I was almost like it comes out at me, almost like I say that quite often. And so when you said that, I was like, I do say that quite a bit.
Yeah, I think we all kind of say certain things. I think we're immediately in our, we feel like we're in a talk show.
Right? Because we are. We can't help it.
I think that we all kind of have things that make sense for us and how we say things. I feel like as a yoga teacher, I have that too, where there's certain things that I say because it's just kind of what makes sense for the pose after I've been doing it for so long. It's like a certain efficient way to say it for me or whatever. I don't know if that makes sense, but
makes perfect.
yeah. Oh, well,
we've got quite a few people coming on. So Stephanie says, my mind is about to
welcome.
explode right now.
I think mine is too. I don't even know what I'm saying.
I love
It's
it.
not my birthday, by the way. But this does say happy birthday.
Birthday JK, not really my birthday.
Happy birthday to somebody, though.
Right. Well, feel free, those of you watching on Facebook, to tag people and share this video and let people in on the goodness, in on the high vibe, because Stephanie's mind is blown with all the high vibe.
You'll have to invite people in, I think. You might be able to share it. Some people I've seen, I actually was able to share the last one, so I'm a Zoom novice, as I was saying earlier. But I'm learning. I got the advanced Zoom package because I just felt like, okay, I got to learn this. Sometimes you got to get over that hump of
Go
fear.
Bigger. Do it.
Mine's usually around technology. So that's I was like, I'm doing this. Okay. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about what you do here in the spiritual realm and also what you do in your other spiritual realm job, both jobs, and just a little bit about yourself. We can
Absolutely. So I'm a medium and spiritual advisor, and I had my first experience when I was 2 years old. So when I was 2 years old, and I remember this vividly, and I remember going to college later and recognizing that I should not have had memories at this point. So I thought that was really interesting. I would
Yeah.
look at developmental stages. I have an undergrad in psychology, and I would think there's no way I should have remembered that. But I had an experience when I was 2, and I just remember getting out of my bed. I think I had bed rails or something, climbing up over the bed, and then running out to the kitchen table and sifting through all this mail. And I was looking for a bill for a male, for a man. And so I was sifting through it, and my mom's like, Heather, your Sesame Street subscription is coming soon, and I
Right.
couldn't articulate what was happening. And so I realized later that I was having a past life experience, that more
Wow.
than likely I was a male in a past life, and I was frantically looking for this male. And so I was very open throughout my early years, and then I was veiled. And so with veiling, what happens is society takes over, or it's just that your peers aren't really into all that, and so you just kind of turn your gifts off. So I turned them off probably about 12 or 13, and then they came back around 19. So I went through just the significant kind of traumatic experience, heartbreak hotel, and then just opened up to my spirituality. And so with that, it was interesting because I didn't necessarily have a mediumship experience until just a couple of years after that. And then I realized I was a medium. So probably in my early 20s is when it came forward that, hey, you know what, you're a medium. So
That still
pretty
feels
exciting.
like so early in life, I think that's really is such an incredible perspective that you come from, to have, even though it feels like it might have feel like, oh, finally, but I feel like someone's making weird noises on my phone, but that is normal for me, right? Technology block, did we say that? Let's clear that. Where's your pendulum?
I have it in my hand right now, actually. It's funny too, because I feel like honestly that a lot of these beings are communicating with you through technology. So, someone's talking to me through technology. I'm sure it's some of the beings.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're
But
probably right. I was thinking about something earlier, and maybe it was to remind me what you were talking about. How we kind of talk about we have different experiences for a reason, and as part of our path, or part of giving us more of a deeper ability to serve in some way or another. And you're talking about going and getting the psychology degree and learning that it was indeed not run-of-the-mill situation to have memories at that age. That's probably really important, because you can say that where you're in a situation, in a role where like you need to have that knowledge and awareness. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's really good that you learn that. It just provided that for you. It's like you have that education that backs up the experience that spirit brings through for you, which I think, again, with you having this almost, not medical is not the right word, but the physical therapy job, you're having experiences on the physical plane that maybe are working collaboratively with spirit realm, which is really cool.
yeah, absolutely. And what I've experienced, and I'm glad I have that anatomy and physiology background. And we actually, when I was going into become a therapist in my graduate career, I didn't realize we were going to need to go into the cadaver lab and actually dissect bodies. Yet it was so profound to me, because that actually amplified my medical intuitive senses.
Right, that makes
I
sense.
could see all the different muscles and whatnot in the joints. And it's really
Yeah.
interesting because during some of my therapy sessions, I will use my medical intuitiveness, and I'm looking at the map of the body. And so it's really neat because I'm able to know and diagnose what's happening. And it's so funny though, because sometimes I always say thank you to spirit. So
I
I'm like,
love that. I love
and
that.
so this other day I was like, oh, all of a sudden it came forward, he had a hernia. And I was like, okay, thank you, like that. And then I was like, oh God. And I keep, just like, oh, so this is what I'm feeling, type of thing. And so it is interesting to be a medium and also a professional, and needing to be able to make sure that I'm operating where that person needs me to operate. you know, so it's
Mhm.
almost like I'm serving as a therapist. So I want to make sure I stay within that therapist role for that person. And a lot of
Yeah.
times I will tap in and I will kind of wonder if it's okay to tell this person that I am moved.
Right, right.
And
It can
so,
guide you in,
mhm.
some way to aid you to help them. So,
Right,
right. Which I feel
absolutely.
like you ask for a lot. That's something that I feel like you bring forward in your lessons and in some of the modules. I've been trying to catch up on modules. I really
Yeah.
love them. Trying to
Mhm.
pay attention to each one though as I go, but I'm working on them. They're awesome.
Awesome.
From her VIP group, we have access to all these um, wonderful lessons about opening your clairs, about mediumship, being an empath, reading auras, meeting loved ones in spirit. I think that might be in there, right? All
Mhm.
kinds of great stuff.
Yeah. Mhm.
So anyway, I think of one thing I know you've taught a lot of is, how can I be utilized to help this person? What's the way? What do I need to hear? How do I need to say it? What do
Mhm.
I need to say? What energy do I need to bring forth for it to be received like with the highest good and the most gentle manner? And I think
Right.
that's something that you really have taught me. I really appreciate um, for my own practice. I try to embody that kind of energy as well. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's so good because I feel like that's our journey here. That's why we have the gifts we do, is to be able to serve. And so it's beautiful to be able to serve, and also to be able to recognize, how am I supposed to serve? And so I love that you brought that forward. And yeah, so in the VIP group, there's different courses, and we talked about clairsentience. So being able to feel spirit, or being able to feel other people. And so one portion that we talk about is, if you're going to give a message, are you going to give it in that teacher energy or that angel
Right.
energy? And I
Right.
see my person, I'm much more angel energy. And so sometimes when spirit will come through very forthright, I'll
Mm-hmm.
just say, they're being very forthright, or this person, this spirit is being very forthright. They're being very direct, because it's just,
I feel like
again,
that happens with me all the
with
time when I
God.
work with you.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, you're always like, is it
Okay.
okay? It's a lot of teacher energy. And I'm like, bring it on. Let's do this.
A lot of
How
people
much
will
time do
say
we have? Knock it out. Like, give me all the things. You know?
it's true.
Get
It's
it, get
true.
it.
But you probably
Don't
witnessed
stop, get
it.
it, get it.
You
What's
witnessed
that?
it as well with your clients, like how you deliver the information.
Yeah, no, I think it's really, really important. Um, I think that's important in any type of service environment that then people talk about the golden rule versus is it the platinum rule? Like, treating other people how you want to be treated, or even better, treating other people how they want to be treated. And that sort of getting out of your ego space and into that place of like true service, whether you're like, pouring them a drink, or whether you're, delivering a message from spirit. So, it's just having that intention, I feel like, in all service.
Absolutely.
It's really
Yeah,
important.
absolutely.
A thing you said earlier too that struck me or made me think of the clairs as well, and I think clairvoyance, I guess, is you were saying about um, knowing the muscles in the body and sort of seeing them, right, with the medical mediumship. And
Mhm.
I feel like there's something with clairvoyance where when you're receiving messages, almost like they're using your own experience, your own vocabulary, knowledge as a vocabulary word bank.
Mhm.
So it's like anything you can gather in there kind of enriches their ability to bring forth information, but also kind of means it's flavored a little bit with a person's personality, I feel like, right? I mean,
Yeah.
to some
Mhm.
element.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was feeling that too. You and I are just getting these telepathic hits. I'm loving them. I was just feeling, and that's why I love having the vocabulary I do with anatomy, because then I'm able to bring forward, the various nerves, the plexuses, the various, let's say the chambers of the heart, one lung is bigger than the other, that kind of thing. But at the same time, it is about being able to assist the person through that mediumship or through, what spirit's bringing them in vocabulary that they will understand. But yeah, also recognizing that they're utilizing me and what I have in my vocabulary. Every once in a while, I'll get these words that I've never heard of as I'm channeling. You'll have to look them up.
Yeah.
What was that? But just recently I had a reading, and I may have shared this with you already, but this grandma kept showing a pie, and I don't bake and I don't cook. And I'm like, okay, a pie. And there's something on the top of it. It's like this. And all I could do was gesture. And so the woman that I was doing the reading with, she's like, oh, lattice. And I'm like, that's right. That's what it is. It was not in my vocabulary, but
Nice.
They'll get that information for you as, however they can,
So they'll even add to your memory bank from time to time, which is really nice too, right? What a nice bonus addition.
I know, it's interesting because sometimes I feel like the memory that I have isn't all mine, because I'll remember a lot of things of other things. So I had a reading right before this, and I didn't have a reading with this gal for almost a year. So the other reading I had, and it was so interesting because as I was on, all of a sudden her stepdad steps forward and he calls her by her nickname, and she gets on the phone, and I'm like, boom, there it is. And I just feel like I can't, that's not mine. You know what I mean? That's not my memory bringing him in. So it's pretty interesting.
You're at a place now in your career and in your journey, in your path, etc., of, I think more of a confidence, and I mean that in like a confidence of faith, that and you really trust that connection, and you have that relationship with spirit that's very strong. What was it like, and when were you sort of more learning how to have confidence in that, learning your tools? And is that like part of those things that you learned? Is that what made you or allowed you the opportunity to put together the VIP group, to be able to offer that to, a lot of people, make it really, really accessible to a lot of us in all different places?
Absolutely. It was interesting. I did a group reading on Friday night, and I said, this is also going to be educational because there are not enough mediums and there are a lot of spirits out there. And so I appreciate you bringing that forward, because I just want as many people as possible to increase their intuition and to be able to really hone in on mediumship if that resonates with them, or another portion of that intuition. And it does come down to that trust. And I think there's two modules, channeling and psychic skills, where both of them I talk about trust, because it's so important. And I remember as I was doing my mediumship, and I knew I was a medium, and I went to a mentor just to really hone my skills. And it was so interesting because there was one time that I was just doubting during an assignment that she had given me. So that's what I also do, is I give people assignments. And anyway, what was interesting is that it was my good friend. His name is Joel. He was in spirit, and I heard a tap, and that was like my confirmation. So I'll hear just a tap, and I'm like, and I just like kind of ignored it and looked away. And then all of a sudden there was like a knock, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. I don't know if I can believe this. I don't know if I can trust this. So it's kind of bantering with them, thought to thought. And then all of a sudden, Joel, my friend, he comes in, and he goes, do you believe me now? Like that, and startled me. Like his spirit just came right in, and I was like, I believe. And I think that really pushed me into trust, and it really turned the corner. And after that, it was almost like everything was spirit. Every tap, every knock, every light flicker, everything was spirit, And so once I was able to make that shift, that's when it really popped.
Wow. That's so cool. And so I feel like each person, was something I'm just learning now, right? Each person has their own progression, and something we talked about in the session so I love getting sessions with you. I'm part of your VIP. I'm always stalking you on Heighten whenever you do your card pulls. So I really enjoy all the offerings that you have, and I feel like I just feel like you're such a clear, beautiful channel, and it just, it's amazing to me. Really, just working with you has really made me believe in so much more, and that's so like That's so beautiful. I just really appreciate the work you do. You work so much, you work so hard, hold space for so many.
Yeah, I
Oh,
appreciate
I'm
you
so
saying
emotional right
that.
now.
Yeah. It's amazing to get to that part, It's
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
to get to that part. Like I feel truly honored and truly blessed that I'm able to assist people to get to that
Yeah.
space, because
Yeah.
I feel that that's a space we need to get to, is being able to like kind of know that spirit is working for us, and to know that we have those gifts. We can come forward,
Right.
we can commune with spirit.
Right.
And in my background, I often tell people I was raised on counseling and secondhand smoke, and then I have a undergrad in psychology, and then my therapy degree, my grad degree. Like there's a lot with psychology, and so a lot of my sessions are, let's get rid of some of those patterns so that you can connect, so that you can connect.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and I see the emotions. I actually had a reading earlier, and the woman was at work, and so I started crying. So I started having her emotions. So I just feel like, have the
Sure.
emotions,
Sure.
have the emotions. It was
Yeah.
interesting when I first started working with spirit, though. Every single time a spirit would come in, I would start crying. Every
Right.
single time. And I remember asking my mentor, I'm like, am I gonna cry every single time a spirit comes in? She's like, no, you're not gonna cry every time a spirit comes in.
Right.
So those emotions are there, and I feel like,
Yeah. No, I feel like I've just started to turn a corner. It's funny that you bring that up. I feel like I've just started to turn a corner with that, where I have a little more sort of balance to hold it, right? When the energy is there. So even with channeling and not letting my head fall back, right? I know it sounds super crazy. I can't believe I'm saying this in public. Not letting my head fall back, but like being able to sit up tall, right? That's like having that grounding and being able to stay like, and not be like, I think a lot of people, we all respond in different ways, and not be completely crying so much through it, or having so much emotion that you can't, facilitate the session or whatever it may be. Right. So
right. I feel like it's a work of progress too, so it's almost like spirit's assisting us. Like if that's how I originally do it, have my head back, spirit's going to assist us to be able to get where we need to be.
right, right. And it seems like also we talked about this too, like different spirits come in different ways. So it's almost like the stronger, like the angels are like, boom, like, it's really intense for me. And I'm like, oh my God, whereas like maybe if it's like some fairy or something, I'm like, yeah, I'm cool up here, So I think it just kind of also depends, what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of it too, is something we talked about where, some people are more comfortable connecting with different kinds of spirits than others, or different kinds of energies, or however you want to see it, or using their imagination in different ways, different parts of themselves than others. And so, for me, I was saying that for some reason, it's easier for me to take that leap or that connection with a fairy or a mermaid or a dragon or a unicorn or whatever, than to turn and be like, oh yeah, it's my dad, or it's John Lennon, or whatever, whatever people are saying, or whatever it is. And I think it's interesting, whereas maybe a lot of people, the mediumship from loved ones in spirit maybe comes in first, and those other things are a little bit like harder to access in their mind's eye. So it's just interesting how we all have are things to open up to at different times, or
It's so
not.
true. I know. Well, I love that recent conversation we had, that
Right. Oh my God.
that it was just so funny, because I had been introduced to galactic beings by you and by Aaron and by Rachel, and I just thought it's so funny that here I was coming from mediumship, and I mean everyone's coming from mediumship, all of us are, but more like with the people who are now in spirit. And just
Right.
as the galactic beings came in, I was like, what's this all about?
Yeah.
Because it
I
wasn't
mean,
familiar to me.
totally. I even still feel, honestly, it's all still like mind bending to me. It's like I feel like I can be a channel for it, but when I step out of it in my ego, I'm like, that sounds crazy. Like, like my logical mind still sometimes is like, yo, I'm still over here. Like, what are you doing? From time to time. And it's just interesting to see that evolve too in a lot of us, as we like kind of grow into our gifts and learn where our own boundaries are and how we want to utilize them. how we
Yeah.
want to be of service. So
And that's good, like how we want to be of service and that we are being of service. Because
yeah,
earlier we were talking about trust and just trusting that, like you said, our logical mind wants to step forward. And I had a reading earlier and I was tapping into the little baby who the woman was pregnant. And at one point,
I love doing that.
ego did kind of come over, come on over, ego. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing kind of thing? Because they were
Yeah.
showing me like what's going to happen when she's 2 years old and what's, and
Wow.
she was going to,
Yeah.
what the birth scene was going to be, all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I really saying all this? Like, that's when ego stepped forward. And I was like, all of a sudden I was like, what if this isn't true, And then they like
Yeah.
washed me. They like came right in and they're just like serving this other person. You've got to get out of your mind. So I feel like it happens, and I just want to say, like, no matter wherever you are in your mediumship journey or your channeling journey or, your spiritual advising journey, like, you're going to have doubt. You're human,
Yeah.
And so I love how it's just like, you're
No, I
serving.
was just, in my mind, I just said bitch slap. And then you just like went like that. We are so like on it today. It's all week, right? That's one of the cool things I was just thinking about that a little while ago about having like a featured person. I do feel like I kind of like get in the zone, especially if I already know you and I already work with you. So it's like, it's really interesting to see how that's been working out like really well. It's really fun to facilitate these. And I think it was something I learned from, I'm sure one of our it could have been like a spirit circle, it could have been something, in a group, but it was about, I always do this once in an interview where I start down a road and I'm like, wait, and I forget, I lose it like for a reason. I feel like something about mediumship, but let's move on. So I would love to talk about your spirit circles where we meet a loved one in spirit through the meditations, through trying to channel for each other, and that whole experience in the VIP group, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Oh, absolutely. I love the spirit circles because it's a time for us all to practice our gifts. And so with the spirit circle, I typically start with a guided meditation to be able to allow for us to kind of get out of our mind and also for us to be able to meet a loved one who's in spirit. And it's an incredible journey, and I just feel like it gives people an opportunity to be able to meet that loved one and to be able to just kind of know that that loved one is there. And as we come back together, then each person just shares who they were able to see in the meditation, and then each of us then starts reading that spirit or bringing in intuition, bringing in insights, that type of thing. And I feel like it's really healing, and it just feels so bonding. We're bonding over various spirits that we have, and being able to practice those skills. And I feel like, anything goes. And I always just want to share with people, like, what comes out of your mouth or what visions that you have, it is all spirit. It is all spirit. And it's interesting because sometimes I'll see something, but I'll say something else. And so it's interesting that sometimes I always tell people, I'm like, it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. This reading I had, it was, so I said, your kids. And then but in my mind, I saw one boy, right?
Okay.
And she goes, I only have one boy. And I said, oh, there's another one coming,
Right.
And so I feel like even in those spirit circles, it's almost like whatever comes out or whatever you're envisioning. There was one actually that was really powerful where this woman was reading for another woman, and she said, I don't know. I just see this little girl dancing on a horse, and she didn't want to say it. She just thought,
because it seems so out there.
And there was somebody in the spirit circle that was like, that's my grandma. They couldn't afford dance lessons, and so she always danced on the back of the horse. So it's like, say it, even though it's out there, just say it, get it out there.
Yeah, those confirmations are always so amazing. And I feel like we kind of get thrown these little, throw me a freaking bone. We get a little bit of a bone here and there to keep us going. Like, I feel like when we do step forward in that faith, to say something that seems a little outlandish or seems outside the box. And then, it's almost always in those moments when I say, okay, I'm just going to say it. And then they're like, oh my God, exactly, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God I said it. Like, it's always that, it's always that really hard one. that you're like, yes, now I get it. You know, like it was a leap of faith to get my ego out of it. And that's what I lost my train of thought about before. I remembered it was the bitch slap, was that I also have from time to time, I'll be working or be in the middle of a session and come into a brief moment of doubt. And we'll get the psh, psh, like, yo, you're working right now. You're working right now, so you don't get to do that. So if you want to do that little dumb stuff that you do later, like that's fine, but right now you're in a session, you know, like, so it's channeling time. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, just, but later I'm really doubtful, like later.
Yeah, later. You can do that later.
Okay,
Not right now.
like,
And I feel like spirit always wants to assist us, you know, as a facilitator as well, where there's times that I may have anticipation leading into a reading, or I had a big group reading and it was 10 people last Friday, and it was like one of the bigger ones that I've had. And I just remember having all this anticipation, and spirit just kept saying, you're going to rock it. It's all good. You know, I'm taking deep breaths. And it's just so funny because as soon as I got there, boom, in the zone. And so I feel like that's how you can tell like the difference between like me and spirit. Because spirit doesn't have fear. Spirit doesn't have doubt, doesn't have shame, doesn't have guilt, you know? And so when you're just in that zone, you know you're there.
Right. It's all in the, like the joy and the serve. And like, you just have to say it. You don't get to judge it. It's not about judgment, not about right and wrong. It's about, you just say that thing, you know, and it's just a different space of like, and you let go of it, you know. And sometimes people, you know, we've talked through this before, sometimes people are like, that doesn't resonate, and you're like, oh my god, you know. And then I want to run around to like everybody I know and be like, did I do it to you? Sometimes I'm like, tell me, was my reading right, you know? And you're like, yes, stop, you know. And I'll be like, Rachel, it's right, I'll told you already it was right, you know, like calm down, you know. But it's hard to not sometimes get the confirmation you want, I mean, at least earlier in things, you know. And I'm sure over time you've seen probably time and time again people coming back and be like, oh my gosh, I see what you meant now. I see what happened and why spirit said it that way, or whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And I hear what you're saying, that validation is so important. And I feel like that assists us. I just want to acknowledge the Facebook group. They're doing so awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Like,
because we're like not participating with them, right?
And Sylvia just said that there's 11 viewers, and oh, I love you guys so much. Oh my gosh, I love you guys so much.
I feel like I should turn my light on, but I kind of like this like kind of romantic
kind of ambiance.
Yeah.
Like Lee says, the psychic
Twilight interview.
Yeah. Yeah, you were just talking about that. I'm like, oh, Gilly saying the psychic blackout is my fave. You feel it, you speak it, you release it, and you don't remember what you said. That's so true. It's so true, isn't it?
Yes.
And I love, but the validation and the confirmation are so important. So I was hosted by this gal at her spiritual store. It was like a spa, and I was booked, and I was so thankful to her because I had never been in this area. So it was like an hour and a half from where I am. I don't know anybody there. She booked me solid. So anyway, this guy comes in, you know, and I start reading for him, and it was so funny because like I was kind of feeling this like a little bit off with him, just a little bit off. And I was like, I wonder what this is. But I knew that I was bringing all the information in, but I was like, what is this offness that I'm feeling? So he leaves, and I think I have like a 15-minute break, and she comes in and she's like, what'd you think? And I'm like, great guy. I said, I love being able to read for men, and yeah, really, really great guy, really deep. I said, he's really, really deep. It was really cool to like be in that deep energy and really philosophical, and you know, it was really neat. And she goes, that was my husband. And I'm like, oh, you know? And I knew that was kind of like what was a little off, you know, and maybe I didn't have all the information or something like that. But at the same time, you know, as I was telling her about him before she told me it was her husband, she was validating everything I was saying. Do you know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, phew. So we do need that validation, you know?
Yeah. And I do think, I mean, it's interesting too. I mean, if a handful of times people ask me, you know, I ask people, do you want to give me an intention? Do you want to ask questions? You know, as I'm doing the healing session or whatever. And a lot of times people just want you to just, as I hear people say, read them blind. I mean, I know that, I guess that's like what's the industry term? But you know what I mean? Like, I think that's something people say, like, and that used to make me nervous. I mean, it still does a little bit. And it's kind of to your point earlier. I think a lot of the things that we really get into flow with and have passion about, we do get nervous before. I think about before I would play lacrosse every time, and like I was, you know, very confident in my lacrosse skills, but before every game I would be like really nervous, or at least 3/4 nervous, you know, like I definitely always had it, you know, there was something about that. And as soon as I would step on the field and just, you know, let it go and just get into that space, then it was in the flow, you know,
There
and
you
it
go.
was really,
Yeah.
it was really lovely. So,
And I feel like that's such a human thing. That's a human
yeah.
condition to be anxious, or, you know, whatever it is that is there. And so I feel like, you know, allowing people to recognize that as you're going into this other foreign realm, you may have some of that anxiousness, or I don't know if I can do
Yeah.
this, or even, you know, just recognizing too that some of the spirits evoke the fear in us. Like, and it's not that they're
Yeah.
trying to evoke the fear in us, but
Right.
it's like such a foreign thing. So I almost just want to say, like,
Yeah.
just like you say with lacrosse, like it's a natural thing. Like we get
Right.
nervous, you
Yeah.
know, and then
Right. It
like you
happens
said, you get to
across,
them, you're
all
fine.
excitement kind of brings us into a certain state. I remember you told me once in a reading, you know, I want you to recognize, or they want you to recognize that sometimes you might experience it as anxiety, like in a session or something, but it's your vibration or frequency raising because you are channeling, or you're about to, or you're about to get a message, or whatever it may be. What that you said, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But you know, that's, I've even this week thought that, even earlier today. And I realized with like certain beings, it's more of that feeling like angel energy it's higher. So it was almost like, you know, you're going in like full throttle, like, oh, you're going up, you know, like G-force. Oh, what just happened? It's kicking me off. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I know. I think
Come
we're
back.
still.
Come back. What did
That's
Rachel say? It's Archangel Greg. We have to call Greg in. Greg.
Go, Gregan. Oh, I love that. But it's true. I mean, it is like, yes. So sometimes we may feel anxiety, but it's just our natural response to feel the anxiety, when actually it's just higher energy. Yeah.
I wonder, does anybody have questions that we're
Yeah, feel free to ask. Stephanie just said, do you guys get confirmation later and then tell the person later? And I do. There's times that I had a session yesterday and a gal's grandma stepped forward. And today I texted her and I said, Grandma also said XYZ, or, you know, that kind of thing. And it does feel good. You know, it's to get that confirmation. And so sometimes I'll even gently remind people, like, oh, I didn't I say that was going to happen in September? You know, right. So yeah, I feel that way. Do you feel that way, Gilly? That if you get you know, the question, I'll read it again for you. Do you guys get confirmation later and then tell the person later?
That's a good question. I mean, I think it just depends for me. I mean, like sometimes I guess that's happened before, but I don't know. I mean, I think in some situations there's more information to share. So of course, I mean, I feel like that's one thing that, again, as a maybe newer to the field, and one thing I've learned about you too is like professional boundaries, and like being able to serve a lot of people and help a lot of people, but, you know, doing it in a way that's healthy, you know, because I think there's a lot that when you're holding space for groups, when you're doing things online, there's a whole another element, right, of energy exchange that's going on. You know, so learning the boundaries around that has been like a really interesting thing, you know, for
I
me.
think boundaries are hard. I really do. Boundaries are hard. I remember at the very beginning, I wanted to give the person everything, and the moon and the stars, and you know, it might have been a 50-minute session, and it turned into an hour and a half. No
And that's
worries,
what keeps happening. Yeah.
you know, kind of thing. But I learned like would get pretty burnt
Right.
out when I would do that.
Right. And it's just, well, and not even, and I think because burnt out, because you're it's pushing into some other space that it was meant for something else, whether it's like restoring or clearing, or you know, getting something done in the regular world that has to be taken care of or whatever. And I think that's where, you know, and I think that's, again, something we can go back to. It's true across a lot of walks of life, like setting boundaries in a lot of different jobs. I think we have a lot of people in this group who are like social workers, who are like teachers, or, you know, and there's a lot of people in this group I feel like I really have a heart to serve, and they just do it. And, you know, they are channels, all of them, in like their own ways. It's very beautiful. You know, and I think so boundaries, and it's a lot of empaths, there's a lot of people who have gifts that are just sort of waiting to be opened. It's really interesting. Today I worked on someone who I'm really close to. So it was really special for me. You know, it's like when someone's, you know, kind of ready to come into this space of like kind of exploring this that you're already close with, it's always really exciting, right? Like you're like, yes, come over to the dark or the light or the just this side over here, whatever it's called. Just come. Like I'm so excited. Yeah, so true.
I love that. Can I tell a quick story about that?
Yes.
There's one of my therapy students, one of my therapy patients. So I told him I was a medium. I actually tell people I'm a life coach, and oh, okay. He's like, tell me more about that. And then after a while, I was just like, just say it. So I did, and he actually started following me on YouTube and whatnot. An amazing, incredible guy. So I've needed to see him 2 or 3 times. Like we'll have a segment, and then we'll be doing okay, and then I need to go back and see him. But anyway, it was so interesting. So this CNA was in there, and I said, hi, what's your name? And she's like, Meredith. I'm like, oh, thank you so much for taking care of him. I mean, just so dear to my heart, that kind of thing. And then she leaves and comes back, and he knows I'm a medium. And I said, where did you go to school? And she goes, Edgerton. And I said, I did too. And I said, so what year? And she was like 5 years younger than me. And all of a sudden she goes, Fawn was my sister. And Fawn was in spirit. Fawn's in spirit. And Fawn passed when she was 16. So she was a couple of years older than me. And I go, I'm a medium like that. And it was interesting because her and I just started talking and whatnot. And after, this is so funny, because after she leaves, my patient was like this, because he knows I'm a medium, but he goes, wait a minute. Did you just pull that out of the air? Or was that out of your ass? And I'm like, I'm a medium. I'm a medium, dude. I told you that. Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty fun. So just like you said, like when people like are, you know, you'd be startled or like enlightened, you know what I mean, into this world. It's exciting. It's really neat. I mean, I was pulling it from spirit, but you can say air, you can say yes. It was so funny.
Yeah, right.
But it was neat.
It's like different perceptions, you know, along the way from different people. You know, someone's asking about VIP, I think. Oh, Gazelle. Yeah. So she's awesome. Yeah. You can connect.
Absolutely. Yeah. It looks like
it's so fun.
Able to put some of the links in there. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I just feel like there are so many people who are gifted or intuitive. And I feel like they haven't been supported. And so they close off. Or they have like a group to support them. And I just feel like with the VIP group, it's like this incredible group that completely supports you on your journey, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, you're getting the courses and you're also able to ask for insights, you know, during the lives or in the group, and you're practicing in the group. I feel like it's all encompassing. And I just feel like, you know, honestly, at times I felt isolated being a medium, you know? And so it's really nice to have that support group. You know, and just like, okay. And then some people in the VIP group will just be like, and I thought it was crazy. I'm like, well, welcome.
Right. Perfect. You sound perfect. You're in. Yeah. If you thought you're crazy at least once this year, you should come on over.
I love it.
You know, but I feel like there is this sort of like, you know, this big shift that starts to happen when you are, I guess, you know, learning about your gifts or awakening or just making shifts or energetic changes, that it can feel like a tsunami sometimes. It can feel like you've gotten like knocked over, you know, completely, and like the waves keep coming, the waves keep coming, the waves keep coming. I mean, I think that people don't realize how intense it is, or how much work it can be to start to like go down that path. And it's hard to describe it, right? But and a lot of it does have to do with the social element of like, okay, first of all, a lot of people don't believe in it. You know, I mean, even like I was saying earlier, even I do this work and there's part of me that's like, what? Like, oh, so really an alien was speaking through me? That sure it was. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not really, I mean, okay, maybe or maybe not. You know, it's hard to like, even when you're doing it, you know, in the beginning, get into that space of full belief of things that you can't see, because that's, we're trained that it's wrong, it's not possible, or that it's evil, or it's bad. And there's so many things to just like, no, just don't mess with it, you know? And everybody has like the Ouija board idea in their head, or the, you know, like things like that. And I think we all, even if we don't consciously say like, oh, yeah, I think it's bad or whatever. There's something in our subconscious, because it's just like we're pummeled with it,
Mhm.
throughout our lives, that just this resistance. And then
Mhm.
an element of like, maybe it's too good to be true. Like, how many people want to like see their dad again, or their grandmom again, or their baby or whatever? Of course you want to be, or just talk to them once more,
Mhm.
so, I
Right.
think people also have a hard time being like, just allowing themselves to have the experience instead of judging it and saying like, no, 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 I'm just making that up. It couldn't be, you
Mhm.
know.
Right. And I feel like in a lot of ways it's up to us to be the role models for that. Just be the role model,
Right.
and it's okay to be able to communicate. I went to the dentist the other day, and they asked like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, therapist. And then I said, and I'm a medium, and the dentist like stopped. She had all the tools in her hand. She stops and she goes, what was that last part? I go, medium, and it was really neat because it was like, as her hands are in my mouth, it was a really good discussion, and it was neat to be able to hear that the dentist had visitation dreams for her mom, and then the hygienist, her sister was in spirit. And I loved the
Wow.
hygienist was so good because she said, I used to have dreams, but I don't now. And I think what it is because I'm not as emotional as my mom is, and my mom really needs my sister to go visit her instead. So I'm fine. I don't mind that she's not coming. You know what I mean?
Wow,
And then
that's really wise.
skills and this, and
Yeah.
it was neat too because I just thought, you know what, we all have something. Do you know what I mean? We all have
Yeah.
something. Intuition
Yeah.
wise, spiritually, we all have
Yeah.
something.
It's like you can see a spark of it in everyone, if you look. It sounds kind of cliched, but like, it is that divine presence, that like magic, that clairvoyance, that, those gifts. It's like, it's there everywhere, everyone. You just really have to open your eyes for it and like really look for that and not everything else, in some more easily than others.
For sure. I'm curious, Gia, when did you
Yes.
recognize your gifts, or how did you recognize your gifts?
I feel like I'm still figuring it out, right?
So powerful.
Um, well, it's funny that you asked that, because I was just thinking of like a few scenes in my mind about that. There's something I just realized recently, that there are some things in my career earlier, and some things in also when I played lacrosse, that I just thought were, oh, I'm really good at this, I work really hard, or just have a knack for it, or whatever, when actually there was some sort of like psychic, for lack of a better word, element going on. And I'd say the thing with when I was in staffing, and what
Mhm.
made me think of this recently, is that from Multidimensional Living, somebody had asked me about doing like a birthday party, and I was teaching Reiki that day. And I had always, like through some sessions with Rachel on my own, like had these ideas of some things that might mix together my different skills. And so it wasn't, I'm not super surprised to see like connections being made. It's kind of a natural part of who I am, a Libra, I have Libra stellium, like, you know, anyway, I digress. But I was connecting people just kind of naturally, like I couldn't do it. So someone's flashed in my mind a name and a picture, like their profile picture flashed in my mind.
Cool.
So I was like, I have to reach out to this person. And then I just had this memory, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's how it worked when I was in staffing. I was like, oh, that's how I always knew like exactly who to call, who would be available. Like I was so efficient. Like I would call like one person. Like I would pitch people on the phone, because I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm thinking of this guy right now, blah, 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 blah. And as we talk about, it was partially because I was hardworking, and same to you. I mean, I think about how hardworking you are. We talk about that a lot, that energy that we recognize in each other, which it's also mostly beautiful, right? There's things that we need to like transmute in it, but it's also awesome, right? And it's taken us a long way, which I think is awesome. I'm grateful for it, right?
Sure. Well, and I love that you're sharing this because I bet in lacrosse as well, I bet you were pretty intuitive. You knew
Yeah.
where to throw,
Right,
what do you get,
right.
baseball ball or
And
something.
that's a right, exactly. That's a different one, right? Um, a different type of player. But yes, I was gonna also, reference that one. But in the staffing world, I was thinking about how you were saying, you have to put it in your sort of vocabulary for them to access it for you. And I would interview so many people. And I would interview like 15 people a week 12 people a week, like go, 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 go. And then when it would come in, I would just have them on this like place, right? And they would just pop. And I never really put it together until it happened here and now. And I was like, those were totally hits. That's so cool. No wonder it was so hard for me to teach other people. I would also do because I went into management. It was hard for me to get people to like replicate what I was doing, probably because they weren't having psychic hits maybe about it. Like it was a little hard. Maybe they had to try more people or whatever, like, but I like realize now looking back, like, man, that's why it was so hard for me to teach it or like to put structure around it sometimes. Because it wasn't structured. It was a lot. And I would sit with a person, I would get a stomach ache if they were lying or if they were like not a good person to work with. And so I always made everybody come and meet me in person. And I would be like, oh, I could tell in like the first couple of seconds, like, I can't work with you. Like, to me, and like, I mean, not to discriminate, but I mean, yeah, I had to like, that was really powerful to me. I tested it and, got screwed over multiple times. I did a contractors. So I'd send a temp out and like they wouldn't show up or they'd lie to me or, and I'd like, I knew, like I made my stomach hurt. Like I should have known.
You were following your gut.
Yeah. Like literally, like, so there was a lot of that. And then with lacrosse, I know sometimes I would just close my eyes with the ball and I wouldn't even be like looking at the net or even that close to it. And I would just see where the ball was going to go in my mind and just like let it go with my eyes closed and it would hit like the top corner from like out of nowhere. Like, and I'd be like, how did that go in? Like in my mind, like I'd be like, how did I do that? Like it would happen like sometimes and I'd be like, wow.
Yes. Isn't that cool?
That wasn't me, I don't think. Like,
no.
It makes me think of one more story. I feel like I'm talking about me too much, but when my high school state championship for lacrosse, my grandmother actually was transitioning to spirit side, like right as that game or right before the game was happening because of an accident, a motorcycle accident. As they were coming to see me for like graduation and so forth, driving up from Florida, my mom's parents, Pop and Mom. So I didn't know this. So I was playing, I was again having that feeling of like I was gonna barf, so anxious, so whatever, and then got on the field and was in like the most flow of life of all flow, that same thing. Yeah. And I had this like record tying. I had like 9 points or something, some crazy game. Couldn't miss the goal, couldn't miss a catch. Like there was magic in my stick, right? But I didn't know why. But I just went off, like, and I'd never been that fast. I'd never been that good. I mean, I was like, I'm really good at this, like, but it wasn't even me. I don't think it was mom because it was like, I went home and I got the news and I always think back, like, was she like playing with me? Like it felt like she was.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think it's been happening for a while, but it's like, we don't always categorize it or we want to discount it. I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah. But you have all of these evidence, I love collecting evidence. Like, I just feel like with my schooling career, like undergrad and graduate, I loved the research. And so you have all this evidence, like, okay, this, then this, then this, and look at how everything connected. And I was spot on with my game, why else would that be happening? So I love that because it's almost like research. You have evidence, to back up what you experienced, which I love.
It's really cool. Yeah. Cool. I love getting body signs. I love getting, the things that that I feel like I can't make that up. I couldn't have done that to myself. I couldn't have made my body shiver like that or, whatever.
There's been times, this is so funny, this just recently happened, but there was, some soap in the shower. And I remember I looked away and the soap like had slipped. And I looked away because I wasn't paying attention. And I just went like this and the soap fell right in my hand. I'm like, okay. Like this stuff is always happening, right? It's always happening.
Yeah. And that's really cool. And, so I have one more question for you. What's it like before we kind of wrap it up, which is my dad's term. I'll have to tell that story one day, but before we wrap it up, one more question is, what is it like to be in sort of a conscious marriage, as a psychic medium, as a person who works, in that space. And then he's also, right, an artist. So he lives in sort of a different world, if you will, than your average 9 to 5. He's not a banker. He's not going, to do a sales job. It's a different thing. So what's that like for you? How's that been unfolding in your life?
I think it's really evolved. So my husband and I, we were roommates, and he was a philosophy undergrad and I was a psychology undergrad. And he also has his master's in theology and spiritual directorship. And so it was interesting because we just talk about this. And so we were like friends for like 6 months. And then after the 6 months, he's like, I have a philosophical question for you. I'm like, okay, and it turned out he was telling me he liked me. So it was really sweet. It was really, really sweet. And it's interesting though, as I evolved with my spirituality, and then he was with me as I was going through and becoming a medium. And the first time, this is so funny. I just have to tell this story real quick. But one of so with my mentor, I'd always go in and I'd say I was meditating every night. And so one night his dad came to me from spirit. And so I come out and he's like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Then I'm like, I gotta tell him I'm a medium, And so I was like, your dad? What's what I'm doing? Like I was trying to like articulate what this was. And it's been interesting because he came onto the main group, my Heighten Your Spiritual Connection group, and he did videos. He used to do videos about a year and a half ago. And he comes on and he goes, I used to be a skeptic. That was the beginning of his video.
I love it.
It was so cool. And so I really feel like you said, like in this conscious relationship, and I don't tell him everything, his father comes to me every single day. I don't necessarily share that, kind of thing. I almost just want to make sure that I'm sharing in benefit, if that makes sense.
Right. It goes back to the boundaries, that we keep that pop up here in this.
Yeah. And it's interesting, when I first started reading his thoughts, I was like, this is fun, kind of thing. It was really,
your husband?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think too, like once I started being able to do that, sometimes some of the behaviors I used to react to, but once I was able to start reading his mind, I realized, wow, he's in a totally different space. This has nothing to do with me, and then be able to support him in that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I've actually done that almost less consciously at times, which can kind of get you or me in trouble, right? Like sort of reading his mind, but not realizing that's what I'm doing, and then reacting instead of like clarifying or making sure that's what's going on, or really tuning in on purpose, or do you know what I mean? And just kind of, I think, and that's when, as you're an empath, you learn the most from people who are close to you, usually, your spouse, your parents, your best friends, your kids sometimes. But, you learn about where that extension kind of stops and starts, and how much you want to share, and where, all of it, and sometimes you feel like at least for me, sometimes you feel like you're so close to it that it can be a little bit more challenging to like, and that's why some of us will call on each other. Oh, can you work on my kid? Can you work on my family, do a family session for me or whatever? Because, sometimes it's easier with your loved ones, just like with anything, just to have that, like, let a third party tell them about that snoring situation or whatever,
option, because us as light workers, we can say, hey, like, I know you've done sessions on my son, and I love it so much. I love that I can trust you with him, to do these sessions with him. And I love that, because I feel like we get too close. Like, so, I feel so blessed with the relationship that I do have with my husband. And there's still times that, I'm still learning, he's still learning, and so just recognizing that it's, when we're in it, sometimes it's hard to see it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So what do you want to, I know you're about to go on live right after this in our group to introduce some people. I want to say, I guess it's kind of guide introductions. Oh, and to wrap it up, what I was going to say earlier, I did this session with someone who I love dearly, and what I saw, this is kind of the first time I've seen something like this, was all of a sudden, so I brought her, like I did all this clearing, and it was finally over. And then I was like, I brought her as a unicorn, and I was like, And now here's your unicorn. And she was like, oh my. And like, she was like so excited. And then she opened her eyes and like all of a sudden the room was filled with like all these guides, loved ones from the other side, like magical beings, galactic beings. It was just like packed house. And she goes around in my mind's eye, of course, right on the astral plane. And she's like, they're like shaking her hand and they're like all like so psyched. They're like, yes, 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 yes.
I love that.
And it was so,
I love that.
I don't even know why I brought that up, but I was thinking about that earlier. Like, it's so cool to be able to see people grow into being able to find that comfort for themselves or that connection with a loved one, you know, or whatever it may be, and being a part of that and being able to facilitate that. It's so much fun. It's so interesting.
I always feel like it gives people permission. Like it's
Right.
like you're giving her permission that, hey, here's your unicorn.
Yeah.
Here's all your ones. Hey, here you go. You know.
Right. No, I feel like that's what I get in VIP, like permission to just go with it, you know, and
sure.
just not doubt it, you know, and I think that's like, it's really groundbreaking. So just much, much appreciated. So what would you like to leave us with before you go connect us with all of our guides?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for this incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we all have a serving heart. I feel like we all have intuition. We all have that connection to spirit, and it's just allowing ourselves to open it up. You know, I get messages where people say, you know, I had a visitation dream. What do you think that means? And I'm like, it means that your loved one came to you. You know,
yeah.
and I feel like we all have this. You know,
yeah.
So I just want to allow people to recognize that we do all have intuition. We do all have this connection to spirit or to universe or to God. And I feel like even though we can't necessarily maybe scientifically explain it, which I got a little, hey, just a second from Einstein right over here. We're working on that. Just recognizing that it truly is real, and why not keep talking about it and be able to create that scientific evidence, you know? And I know it's out there. Actually, they're showing me there's different machines that are out there that are showing us that that spiritual existence does have that scientific backing, you know? And so I just feel like recognizing that you are intuitive, recognizing the more you talk about it, the more you'll get intuitive, and the more evidence we get from everyone,
right.
You know?
It snowballs,
so,
right? And like attracts like, yeah. And there's just something about taking a leap of faith that you do get rewarded, you know, like we were saying earlier, you know, there is something to that, I think, you know, and you like answer that call, because it's never easy, you know, so it's beautiful. So tell us all the places we can find you, and are you offering any kind of special treat besides all the wonderful love you've given us all week, any kind of special for members of MDL? Let us know.
Yes. And it's just been such a privilege. So thank you.
I'm so honored. I just love you.
Community. I love it. I love you too. So I do have a VIP group that includes the courses on auras and channeling, psychic skills, manifestation, synchronicity, and clearing. And you also get the main guide meditation. And with that, as I was sharing, it is just this kind of constant practice and support. And I go live on Wednesdays, and also we have educational calls every other Friday, and a spirit circle monthly. So I absolutely love that, just this incredible high vibe group. And so that is something that if you're wanting to get more of my energy, would love to have you there. You can look at my other services at heathercorbetspiritualadvisor.com. And Corbet is Corbet, 1 T. There was a little family feud back in the day. And so the Corbet's us, we took off the second T. There's 2 T's. So there's a bunch of Corbets with 2 T's and a bunch of us with 1 T. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So with that,
family feud.
Right. And so I would love to offer your community, I have these spiritual mini courses. And so it's channeling, it's meeting your guides and your angels and your masters, and then also being able to use protection techniques, channeling, and get angel activations. And so there's a 10% discount on that. If you go to heathercorbetspiritualadvisor.com/mini courses and then put in the coupon 10mini, MINI, you can get 10% off of that. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have one more question for you. I know this is so funny. I keep hearing it to ask you. It doesn't sound like something I'd usually ask. Do you have a favorite angel to channel?
Yeah, I love Haniel. hands
Oh,
down.
that's so funny. That's who I channeled today. Maybe that's why. And I think
no wonder.
I feel like that is also my angel, like my guardian angel. Like when I did I think I did your module of Meet Your Guardian Angel. Right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
And it was, I always say Haniel though, which is probably not correct way to say it. But my friend Lauren had a friend back when we used to hang out in New York named Haniel. And I always
I love it. Well, no wonder. How awesome. And I love that. Like that was perfect. That was in the moment. You're thinking of Angel Haniel. Hey, which angel do you like to channel? Angel Haniel. What? I channel every day.
I love it.
You know,
It's
like
so
how
much
cool is
fun.
that?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like this business, that was Haniel today.
Boom.
In the same session as the hey, welcome. It was a magical session. Look at it.
I love that.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so
Thank you.
much. And I can't wait to catch you channeling your guides. I'm sure I'll be up on there in 1 second.
Awesome. Okay.
Thanks. Good night, everyone. Thank you.